Today I'm going to be discussing Goodwill by the pound again, and I'm going to be showcasing some of the terrain that I made from random junk that I bought from my local Goodwill by the pound. I have to say, my local Goodwill by the pound is actually kind of strange. I briefly talked to one of the surly young workers there. I told them what I was doing. I was looking for cheap stuff to turn into terrain for board games and D&D. And he immediately said, oh, well, don't be looking for Warhammer stuff because there's a bunch of guys that have that hobby, so anything that comes in, they kind of divvy up. And then another worker later said, "Oh no, don't worry, he was just kidding." And it was a little bit weird because it's like, okay, I never mentioned Warhammer. I just said D&D and board games. I never really expected to find like Warhammer stuff in the Goodwill by the pound. Either the guy was being a jerk and messing with me, or the workers at my local Goodwill by the pound, take good stuff. I can't really fault them for that. It's not the greatest job in the world, so if they want to take some stuff, that's fine. I'm really trying to make a point by finding random stuff too, so if I happen to find like a bunch of Warhammer terrain that was like actual Warhammer terrain, there's no point in doing a crafting video on that. It's kind of ready to go. So let's talk about some of the stuff that I found at the Goodwill by the pound and what I did to prepare it. First off, we have this really weird, miniature set, and I've never seen anything like this. It's a big, giant mechanical spider, and I couldn't tell, it's Megastar Miniatures or something like that. It's actually pretty interesting looking, so I put it together. It's fine as long as you're looking at it from the top. I found this weird, sculpture thing, and I used a bit of green stuff to back it. I actually used hot glue to fill the hole, and then I used green stuff. And so yeah, these are mostly terrain bits that you would put out on your game field just to give your game a little bit more interesting perspective, just give your players something to look at. Taking a close look at the giant hand that I found at the Goodwill. I don't know what this thing is from. I'm assuming it's some sort of model kit. It painted up nice. I was really tempted to paint this in green, but I decided not to at the last minute. This could be used for a statue that's maybe covered in sand, or it could be used as the Big B's crushing hand special effect. Here's a dragon skull. This was part of a plastic dragon that was badly damaged, so I decided to just keep the head of it. This is a really nice just dragon sculpture. Perhaps a dragon sculpture that had collapsed, or kobolds maybe stole it as a decoration. And then there's kind of a cheap dinosaur skull. And again, this was from a damaged toy. I set this up. This could be maybe an animated dinosaur skull. It could just be a trophy. It could be a lot of things, really. The detail on it isn't that great, but it looks okay from a distance, and it's definitely going to be an interesting little bit. Kobolds or goblins or orcs have a base. They would probably have something like this as a trophy, or maybe it could have something to do with the jungles of Chult and be a way to get the people into that area. And here's one of my favorite finds, that weird tree sculpture thing. I painted it like it's a tree. It might have been a rock sculpture. I'm not really sure. I did the very easy technique of just doing consecutively lighter shades of brown, and then I did some grayish brown highlights on the teeth and made the tongue a little bit reddish brown. And it pops. It looks really nice on the table, and I'm very happy about this. And my sculpting, as you can see on the back, the green stuff sculpting actually looks pretty great. And it looks like a roughly hewn wooden statue, which is what I was kind of going for. Very happy with this one. Obviously, this would be useful as a goblin, kind of maybe shamanistic type thing. Maybe this is just something that they set up to show that this is their area. or it could be some sort of evil druid thing. Lots of uses. Oh, and then the classic Easter Island statue. This guy's great. I think it's some sort of like McDonald's toy or something like that. Some very interesting sculpting there. Makes it look nice and old, just like the Easter Island statues. I did some hot glue on the back to kind of cover up. There was a little switch and a bunch of holes, so I kind of messily covered it up. It looks okay. I could have maybe tried to texture it a little bit better to make it look more like the statue. But I'm not really concerned. The whole point is to make stuff relatively quickly that looks nice enough on the table for terrain. And the classic, the organ. It could be just a general pipe organ, or you could use it for just a number of different things. When I think of pipe organs, I always think of vampire campaigns where there's a castle with a vampire playing an organ. This is actually some sort of Mega Bloks organ thing. I didn't touch it up too much. I painted the bottom so it kind of looked like... It all was metal painted before, but I painted the bottom so it kind of looked more like wooden. And the painting on the keys was actually pretty good. Again, the key is I didn't want to put too much work into these, but this turned out okay. And the mechanical spider. This is the little mechanical spider that I showed briefly in the video. It has a lot of interesting little details, and it's actually the correct size for a medium mechanical spider enemy. It looks great. I did just a very simple dry brush on it and painted its eyes red, and it looks pretty awesome. I'm very happy with that. And where you have one small mechanical spider, you will certainly soon have a giant mechanical spider. And this is that miniature kit all painted up. I did a very quick dry brush with kind of dull gold, and then I picked out some areas with bronze and steel to kind of make it pop a little bit. I didn't want to go crazy because, again, this is a very simple model, but at the same time, by just giving it a little couple touches like this, it makes it look really nice. And I will be happy to put this against my players very, very soon. And time for some Nautical Adventures. This is that toy plastic ship that I found at Goodwill by the pound, and it actually turned out pretty great. I was actually a little bit hesitant to put a bunch of work into this because, I mean, it's just a cheap plastic toy. But just regular primer stuck to it really well, and I just did a very quick dry brush of different shades of brown. The only thing that was a pain is that this door was actually missing. As you can tell, this is a very quick mold job that I did with the Orumayu stuff in resin to replace that door. I didn't put any care into it because, frankly, this is a cheap model and I don't really care. But yeah, now it's like a whole model, and I would consider this a very interesting bit to have on my table. As you can see, there is some detail there, but, like, you know, there's not much point in me putting much more effort into this. It's something for a D&D table that I'm probably going to use like a couple times, so I'm really not being too fancy with it. And as you can see, it does the job perfectly. It's really good in scale, so you can have a full crew on there and have a big fight with some sort of sea creature.
Well, I'm the captain now.
As always, I'd like to ask if you have found anything interesting at your local thrift stops. If so, please let me know in the comments below. I'm going to be going back to my local Goodwill by the pound and hopefully finding some more treasure and maybe even getting some ideas. Maybe I'll come up with some quest ideas, or maybe even find some more miniatures that can be used as monsters.
have a great day, and as always, thank you for watching the video.